Last Thursday was a dark day for America and our justice system. After weeks of back and forth, the Manhattan DA's office decided the political persecution of Donald J. Trump was worth making a mockery of New York, the justice system, and America as a whole. China is loving this as the communists are actively taking over the world. Here in the U.S. of BS, we're trying to arrest a former president for allegedly paying off a porn star. What a clown world. The party that believes murderers and repeat felons are just misunderstood or victims of climate injustice wants Trump behind bars. This is the definition of political persecution. In case you need another example of what Alvin Bragg's justice looks like, here's another one for you. A Manhattan parking garage attendant who was shot twice while confronting an alleged thug, then wrestled the gun away and opened fire on the suspect, had been charged with attempted murder. Now, given the optics of it all, they've declined to prosecute. Convenient. You know, I spend a lot of time in New York. Thank goodness I don't live there. But I have to wonder what those of you who call that overpriced, rat-infested, crime-ridden hellhole home think about the Soros-funded DA's priorities. DA Bragg reduced over 50% of felonies to misdemeanors last year, but his office has jerry-rigged some cockamamie years-old charges against a former president for allegedly paying off a porn star. Alvin Bragg will go down in history as a fraud, a fake, and a loser. But as for Donald J. Trump, he's already winning. Not only have his poll numbers surged, his campaign raised $4 million in 24 hours, and the donations keep pouring in. But Bragg is just a sacrificial lamb for Soros and the Democrat Party. But by the looks of all these things, y'all will be lamb chops on the mega grill. Join me now with what we need to know about the indictment, the pending arrest, and more is attorney to former President Donald J. Trump, Alina Habba. Alina, it's great to have you. I know it's probably a very, very busy day over in your world, as it is for the rest of us here in the U.S. of A. But I have a whole lot of questions for you, and I want to just jump right in.
Go ahead. Happy to be here.
All right, so the first thing I want to ask you is last Thursday night, I was flying to New York. I was planning to be on Hannity for our live audience show, and then all of this went down, right? And so our show completely changed. I had the opportunity to be with Joe, and I talked to him in the green room, and he told me that the team was really kind of blindsided by this indictment, given the grand jury had taken a break, and it all seemed very baseless. It seemed like it was all unraveling. So was this really a big blindside moment for the Trump team?
Yes, it was. I think it shouldn't have been. I think it should have been something that if I was working with a former president or anybody, frankly, as respect to them, you kind of want to coordinate with their team and you want to be as cooperative as possible because you're about to go into, years long or months long trial. You're going to have to do favors when one needs more time to answer this or that. So it was very childish. The way it came out was not appropriate in my opinion, but here we are.
Right. And there's 30 plus counts. And of course, we don't know exactly what this case entails, but we think it's about the Stormy Daniels alleged hush money payment, the NDA, the glorified NDA of it all. But these 30 plus counts, what can the American people expect when we finally do see all the details of this indictment coming out probably tomorrow?
It's going to be stacking of misdemeanor charges. That's what they do. They stack. They're trying to, this was something that first of all, was a felony to even have been leaked because it came out of their office, and it is a felony to talk about the details of an indictment before the indictment is shown to the defendant. So let's remember that. So there may have been a felony here, but the felony was probably out of their office. Number one. Number two, what do I think it was? I think they're probably piecing together something to make it bigger than it needs to be or should be because it never happened. We already know that the federal prosecutors looked at this case. They dismissed it and said they wouldn't bring charges. The FEC that regulates crime for campaign finance laws dismissed this. So now you have a state level, which is completely the wrong venue, bringing 30 to 34 charges we're hearing. It's probably something like they're going to take each check that was cut and make it its own individual misdemeanor so that they can chalk it up to be something more than it is.
This is all such a sham, such a disappointment, but really it's not very surprising. I want to talk about Michael Cohen because he is absolutely loving this. He's on every mainstream media platform. They're all salivating over it. But it was really odd to me because he was on CNN last week talking about it, and he seemed to almost sympathize with the former president. Let's take a listen, and I want to get your reaction.
I don't want to see him paraded that way. Remember, because he's a former president of the United States, because I actually care more about the office of the presidency of the United States than he does. I don't want to see this made into the laughingstock of the world. This is unprecedented. And the more that we keep this we'll call it classy, the better it is for our position in the world.
I got to get your thoughts on this because Michael Cohen, I mean, he's a felon, he's a liar, he's a weasel. Now he's coming out and he's really worried about the office of the presidency. What is your take?
Yeah, you know why he's worried about the office of the presidency? Because he would love to be in the office of the presidency, which is why he's so mad at Donald Trump, because he wouldn't take him. Michael Cohen is a joke. To me, he is a joke. He is an embarrassment to my profession, which is why he no longer holds a license. He is somebody who cannot get over Donald Trump. He's like a stage 5 clinger. I mean, that's who he is. And he acts like he's doing something for this country. This is all the Michael Cohen show. That's why he makes money on his podcast. That's why he writes books at opportune times when he goes into DAs and AGs. The guy's a joke. I don't want to even get into it because you'll see a little bit of a Lena Hava fury. But I think he is a comedy show and needs to get a life.
I agree. The other networks are really loving him, though, because he's providing them exactly what they need, that little fix for their Trump derangement syndrome. They love talking about Trump. We know this. The only time they get anybody to watch, and they still really don't, is when they talk about Trump. So they're absolutely obsessed. They're also stage 5 clingers, if I'm being honest. I want to talk about Stormy Daniels, though, because we talked about this last week on Hannity, and I think a lot of Americans are very confused with this case because it's very confusing because it's ridiculous. But Stormy Daniels in 2018, in writing, denied having an affair with Donald Trump. So I don't understand, and a lot of Americans don't understand how we're still discussing it. Can you address that part of this equation?
Without getting into the indictment, I can't really address exactly what is coming or how they concocted it. I can tell you what I can assume is happening. This was 7 years ago. They looked into this. This woman came out of the woodwork when he was running for presidency. We know this. She said, I slept with Donald Trump. She wanted to sell her story. And basically, she signed an NDA, is my understanding, and was paid to not do so. So now somebody else owns the rights. That's the way that works. It's like a contract. So then she comes out and she says, no, I didn't really sleep with him. Effectively, it's like an admission that you were basically extorting him. You wanted to get money out of him. You did. You wanted to embarrass him. You tried. And federal prosecutors looked into it and said, no, there's nothing here. He didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't paid with campaign money. It wasn't paid by Donald Trump. It was paid by Michael Cohen, who took a loan out to pay her. And then again, the FEC looked into it. They had an obligation to because he was a president candidate. Again, they said there was no campaign finance law violation. And today we have a state actor who is Soros-backed and trying to make a headline for himself. But the headline that he's going to get is going to be very funny. It's going to be, you are the Joker of the DAs of all DAs. You have embarrassed the Democrat Party and you have probably pushed Donald Trump into the White House. So for that, I thank Bragg, but we'll see him in court.
So I wonder what the next step is of this process is. You know, we expect tomorrow for Donald Trump to be arraigned. Is it going to go smoothly? I know that that's what the team has been saying. It's not going to be some, big spectacle, or at least they don't want it to be. But are they going to make him do the perp walk? I mean, how is this going to go tomorrow for all of us Americans out there who are really dreading what's going to happen tomorrow?
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, I'm not a criminal attorney. We all know what the normal process is. I think we saw what they did with poor Alan Weisselberg. And they try and make a mockery out of you. They try and humiliate you. What they don't understand about Donald Trump is the more you try and humiliate the man, the more he stands up and fights. So it's not really going to work in their favor. You're going to put him on a pedestal and he'll take that mic and he'll run with it. So what they're doing is silliness. Yes, he will have to go to court. He's on his way to New York right now, where I am, and will be, at Trump Tower this evening. Tomorrow he will go to court. He will do what he needs to do. But no, there will not be handcuffs. And we'll see how far they try and push him. But the reality is he's a former president and he's a leading candidate, and they're going to have to respect that office.
If you were to estimate, how long do you think that this process is going to take? Is this going to stretch through the primary season, through the election season, after the election? What do you estimate and what can we expect?
Well, trials in New York, typically, if you're not Donald Trump, can take years. If you're Donald Trump and you're leading in the polls, I'm sure the judges will try and rush it. I have that with my Letitia James Attorney General case. We've seen that. They filed in November. We're going to trial in October. It's unheard of. So everything with Donald Trump is different. I could tell you what I've seen in over my decade of practicing law in New York, but that's going to be different with Donald Trump because it's politically motivated. So I'm not sure. And hopefully we get this dismissed on a motion to dismiss immediately.
I think the American people would love to see that, and all American people, regardless if they like Trump or not, should want that to happen because this is such a miscarriage of justice. My last question for you, how is Trump doing? I know that I've talked to a lot of people that are very close to the president. I know that he posted our clip of on Hannity on his Truth Social, which I was really happy to see. But how does he feel? I know he's a fighter, but behind closed doors, how is he holding up?
Well, he's not in tears, I'll tell you that. He's a fighter behind closed doors and out in the public eye because that is who he is. I think the only thing that makes him sad in this is the state of our country. And it only motivates him more to get back in that White House and fix the mess that Joe Biden and his cohorts have done to this state. And the state of our country is in shambles. That's the only time you'll see him upset. Is when he thinks about what's happened to America, because he does love this country. But no, for himself, he's not. He's a fighter. He will fight. He will continue to fight. And, you know, he's like the definition of what doesn't break you makes you stronger. That's Donald Trump.
He is Teflon Don. They've gone after him so many times and they still cannot sink him. And I will say this, the silver lining in all of this, and I said this on Hannity the other night as well, we know that there is a two-tiered system of justice in this country, and a lot of conservatives have been feeling that pain. Pro-life Christians and others, moms at school board meetings have been feeling it. So maybe this needed to reach a fever pitch with somebody like Donald Trump, who is a fighter, who has the resources. Maybe this is the person that's going to expose all of it and really drain that legal swamp. That's the only bright spot I can see in this, but also we know the Trump campaign is doing very well because of it. So fight on. God bless you all. We're all thinking about you, and best of luck to you all tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So if the case against Trump is indeed some cockamamie thrown together charges surrounding a glorified NDA to Stormy freaking Daniels, then I don't think the Trump team has much to worry about. And contrary to Nancy Pelosi's understanding of the criminal justice code and Constitution, Trump doesn't need to prove his innocence. The corrupt prosecutors need to prove his guilt. This is Trump derangement syndrome on hormone blockers, and it's likely as legally meritless as it appears. Why then would the Manhattan DA and Democrat Party cheer this on? I mean, I know they've wanted to find a way to put that man behind bars since he came down the golden elevator, but why take a case even the highly political DOJ wouldn't touch? Not only are they going to have an uphill legal battle to fight, they've set a very dangerous precedent with this indictment that could very well be used against a Democrat in the future. Wait a daggone second. Maybe that's part of the plot here. We all know the Democrats don't want to run Ice Cream Joe in 2024, so maybe they're pulling a 2-for-1 here. Maybe, and I know this seems crazy, but stick with me here. Maybe they're opening the door to prosecute a president because they're okay with the big guy going down next. To go after Trump for allegedly paying off a porn star when the Chinese Communist Party has been paying off the Biden crime family for nearly a decade, well, that seems pretty short-sighted unless that's what the Democrat machine wants. Here's my theory, and feel free to disagree. I think they want to use this new precedent to not only go after Trump, fuel the MAGA movement, and lock him in as our nominee, a nominee they see as easy to beat, but I think they want to use this precedent to oust Biden too and put Gavin Newsom in his spot for 2024. Conservatives, a lot of y'all are taking their bait hook, line, and sinker. This political witch hunt against Trump is an outrage, and we have to condemn it fully. But if you were rooting for DeSantis and now you're rooting for Trump solely because of this indictment, well, you might be getting played by the DNC for a fool. Sure, amongst our already mega voting bloc, this indictment has increased Trump's popularity and fundraising totals, but you're forgetting about independents, and unsurprisingly, this indictment is not making them more mega, because a lot of y'all are forgetting a very crucial reality we face in America. A lot of your fellow voters watch the fake news media, and they don't see this indictment as a witch hunt, which it 100% is. They see it as another reason Trump is a bad orange man. Guess what? Hate to burst y'all's mega bubbles, but we need to win at least some of these fake news media watching folks to win in 2024. And if Trump is indeed our nominee, solely because we want to have his back, well, I hate to tell you, but we're probably going to lose again in 2024. Some of you are going to hate me for saying this, but it's my duty to tell you the way I see it. I support Trump. I support his fight against this sham indictment, but it's not enough to convince me he's our nominee or make me blindly hand 2024 over to the communist, Marxist, Democrat, America-hating left. none of the battles y'all want to fight matter if we lose in 2024. And that's the cold, hard truth.